Hey everyone, in today's video we are going to be learning about express routing. So let's dive in, and in this video we are going to build upon whatever we have explored in my previous video. So if you haven't watched that video, I will request you to go back and watch that video first, because otherwise things will not make much sense in this particular video. And before we start, I would like to request all of you that whosoever is watching these videos and is finding these video helpful, please make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe to this channel, because a lot of you, like more than 98% of you, are not subscribed to this channel, and it helps me in getting motivated when you guys like, share and subscribe and comment on my videos. So make sure you do that, and let's dive right into our express routing tutorial. So before we can start learning about routing, we need to understand what is the route actually. So if you head over to the address bar, you get to see something like this. This is known as a URL, a universal resource locator. So whatever you see after the domain name becomes the route. So here the route is en/guide/routing.html. So this is the route. Okay, this part. If you go to a website, let's suppose in our local example we do something like http localhost and port number is 3000. So when you type in this address and press enter, the original route that is requested is the slash route. So whether you put in the slash route or not, it is up to you, but if you leave it out, the browser will substitute it for you, and this is the default route, and whatever you are going to write after it will become a separate route. So this is one route, and if I write something like Rajat, so this is the other route. And then you can use a combination of slashes and strings in order to build a unique route. So now that we know what routes are, there is one more concept which we need to understand, and that is HTTP verbs. So there are a couple of HTTP verbs. The most common verbs are get, post, put, patch and delete. So these HTTP verbs show your intentions to the server. If you do a post request, your intentions are that you want to create a resource on the server. If you want to do a put or patch request, your intentions are that you want to patch something, you want to update something that is already residing on the server. If you issue a delete request, it means that you want the server to delete something from the backend. So it is all about your intentions. So it is more like a convention. You can make these HTTP verbs do things irrespective of what they are supposed to do if you really want to. So I can even create a new resource using a delete HTTP verb if I really want to do that. I can certainly bypass all the underlying checks. Okay, so these are more like the conventions, not the actual constraints or the actual checks that are in place. Okay, so it is more about the intentions. Now that we know that these HTTP verbs are used to create intentional endpoints, now we can go back to our code, which is in VS Code. This is our first route which we have already created. Now let's also create a post route. Let me expand this window. A post route, and again I'm going to do slash. So on any single route you can create several different endpoints for every single HTTP verb that is out there. Okay, so on the very same route, that is the slash route, that is the default route, we can have a get handler and a post handler. So whenever you issue a get request, this request will be handled by this particular function, and when you do a post request, the issue will be handled by this post function. So now we are going to write function. This is again the same. I've explained the res and rec objects. So again you can do something like res.send posted. Okay, and let's start the server quickly. Npm run dev. In order to test this post thing, we cannot use the browser. We have to use something like Postman, which is a REST API development tool, or you can use any tool you want to, or you can use your terminal as well. So open up a new terminal window and let's check if you have curl command. Okay, so we have curl at our disposal. So you can write curl -x and then specify the type of the request that you want to send. So -x is that flag which you can set. So I want to send a post request. So cul-x post and then the name of the server. So localhost and then 8000. Let's check whether I have Postman installed or not. I have Postman installed on the system. So in case you do not have Postman installed, it is the easiest way out to test your APIs. So I can simply create a new request, an HTTP request, and from here I can switch the type. So these are all the HTTP verbs that are available to us. So we are going to select post and then write HTTP localhost and then not 3000 again, but 8000 port. Okay, and send it. And now we have gotten the response posted because here we have written posted. Okay, so our post endpoint is working. Similarly, we can create other endpoints like delete. Okay, and again do this thing, function response and again rest.send will delete a resource. Okay, and save this thing and restart our server and again create a new request, switch the type to delete and copy paste this particular URL and send it. Okay, so now you have gotten the response as well. So this way you can create several endpoints pertaining to what you want to do. Okay, so now you might be wondering that I have to do these many times. So there is a shorthand notation as well. So you can do something like app.route, then your route name, and then you can chain these things. So you can do something like, now you can write get request here and then do the function. Okay, so instead you can simply copy paste the stuff from here. So we can do something like, okay, let's cut this thing from here and instead of doing this, write this thing here. Okay, so now you can chain these requests. This way you do not have to write this route stuff again and again. If your route is quite complicated, you can simply create a chain of requests so that you can put in multiple handlers for whatever verbs you want to use. Okay, so this is one such way. Let's use it quickly. Save this file, reboot our server. Something is broken now, but got a string. Okay, so here we do not have to use this. We simply have to use the function. My bad, I forgot to remove this thing. So now you do not have to put in the routes in each and every function. Now it will work. Okay, so let's test it again. Okay, now it is working correctly. So this is one more way of chaining the handlers for a similar endpoint. So we can also create dynamic routes. What do I mean by dynamic routes? So let's suppose I have an endpoint called users, right? Now when I type something like HTTP user and then 1, I should be dealing with the user with a user ID 1. Okay, whenever I do that. Okay, so if I want to do something like that, what can I do? In this particular case, this is a dynamic URL because this particular value is actually representing a resource on a server. So this thing, this particular value can change. It's a dynamic value. That is why this particular URL is a dynamic URL. So how can I use such a dynamism in my URLs? So let's clear this up. Not the entire thing, but this part. And let's create a route app.get again. And let's do something like user. And then you have to type in slash and colon and then user ID. So this thing becomes a placeholder for whatever value is going to come in from the end user. Okay, so again you have to provide in a callback function, request response and then you can do something like console.log request.params, because whatever dynamic values you are going to get are going to be populated inside the params property of your request object. Okay, do that, and you can do response dot send request dot params. So we are sending this data back to the end user. Okay, so again save this file, reboot the server, and let's see. So we have created a GET request. So again, in Postman you can create GET requests as well. Do HTTP localhost, then users, and then 1. Okay, so we have gotten an error. So the endpoint is user, not users. Okay, so we have gotten this data back because this param is actually an object and it holds all the keys. So let's suppose you want to have more dynamic parameters to this route. You can have something like user ID and then name. This way you can provide in 2 dynamic values. Let's test it. User, if I press enter, first of all it will not work because here it says the exact form of the URL. You cannot just escape certain parts of it. It is seeking 3 values separated by slash. So you have to provide 3 values because this is not a route which is similar to this route. Okay, so we have to provide in the name value as well. Then only it will match this particular handler. And if we do this, we are going to get this value out of it. So this rec.param is an object. So in this particular handler, you can use values extracted from this params object for whatever purpose. So you can create a new object on the server and do whatever sort of server side processing you want to perform by using values provided to you by the end user using dynamic URLs. Now you can also make a dynamic parameter optional as well. So let's suppose we want to make this name thing optional, that a user can provide this value or can leave it out if he does not want to provide it. So we can put a question mark right after the dynamic parameter and just start our server or reboot our server and then go to this URL and it will work. And here the name is just undefined. If we provide a value, then it will take it, otherwise it will simply treat it as an undefined value. So this way we can create or we can make the dynamic params optional. Okay, all right, so there are a couple of other things as well we can do. So we can use regexes in order to create endpoints. So route.get, and then if I write something like ABC and then the question mark. So here the question mark is not actually marking this route optional because there is no dynamic parameter in place, but this is actually a syntax known as regular expression. Okay, so a question mark means that either C can be there or not. Okay, and then again the function request response and rest.send. Hey, let's restart this server. And do ABC. Or go to type in slash. Let's restart the server again. And if I do something like this, you will get to see that this particular handler has accepted my request because I have instructed it to match A, B, and then C is optional, which means that A and B should be present in the route and then there can be a C or not. Okay, so this is working. If I put in a C, this will also work, but if I put in one more C, then it will not work because now the regex is not matching. if I want to make this sort of URL work as well, so instead of putting in this question mark sign, I can put in a plus sign, okay, which means that I can have one or more instances of C. Let's check it. Let's reload the server and then let's do this, and now it is working. I can remove this thing as well and it will still work because of this regex. So you can create routes using regex as well. So instead of doing this, you can also write proper regex here, something like this: A, B and C plus. So now we are not using a string based regex, we are actually using the proper regexes notation. And restart this thing, see it again it is working. So this is the regex way of creating routes. Now you may have a scenario where you simply do not want to create individual endpoints for a route. You just want that whatever sort of HTTP verb I'm using, a particular route should always entertain any sort of HTTP verb I am providing it or I am requesting data with. Okay, so for those cases you can use something like app dot all, which means that all the HTTP verbs are going to be handled, then your route name and then function request.response and then response.send rec.method. So here you can clearly figure out what method is being used in order to request this particular route. Okay, this way you can make decisions on the server side and do things on your own, which means that you want to take full control in your hand and you do not want Express to handle anything. So it will just simply forward, get, post, put, patch, delete and whatever sort of HTTP bus the user is going to provide for this particular route, and it will simply forward the request to this handler. Let's test it. And the thing is working and it says that I have issued a get request. Again, if I do something like this, it should tell me that a delete is used. Okay, it is telling me the correct HTTP verb because it was a delete. Also test it for post. Okay, so post. Okay, so this way you can just simply escape creating individual routes or individual handlers and do it in one go. Okay, so I showed you chaining, right? So chaining is considerably a longer syntax, right? It can fill up your vertical space, right? So what you can do is you can make your program modularize. You can create a route in a separate file. You can have an entire module to it, and then you can import that particular routing file into your main program. Let me show you how you can do it. So let's suppose we have something like a books route, right? So app.use and books and then our router which we are going to create. So for the time being, let's call it constant book router and then do require and book router.js. As of now, this file is not there, so our program is not going to work if you are going to reload it. So first of all, let's create this file, book router.js. Now what you have to do here is that you have to create an instance of express, require express, and then you have to do constant router equals to app dot router. Okay, so this thing you have to use. Then what you need to do is that router dot get, then again you have to do the customary things of providing in the endpoint's name and then a callback function, request and response, and just response dot send hello, hello from the books router. Let's do this, and you need to export it, a module dot exports and then the router. Okay, so now we have modularized our application. All the routing logic related to the books domain resides in a separate file, so all the handlers are going to come here for dealing with books. Okay, this way we can keep our main application very succinct, very easy to understand, because the thing can be abstracted away, can be modularized. Okay, then we can simply use this book router as the callback, and let's test it. It is failing. So actually this thing is not working because we forgot to call this thing. Okay, so that way we will get an instance of the express router. We were not calling it, hence we were getting this error. Now let's reboot the server and see if it is working now. So again we are getting this post, which is technically not an error because we have only created the get route. So this will work. Even this thing is not working because, okay, so our server is started. Let's see. So we have mounted our books router on the books route. So again I forgot to put in a slash over here. Now it will work. So now books and issue the request. So our request has been handled by the books router and by this particular handler. Okay, so this way you can abstract away your routing logic. Okay, so we have reached to the conclusion of this routing in Express video, and if in case you have any doubt, make sure you leave a comment on this video. Also, the code sample is mentioned in the video description, so make sure you check that out. And in case you are wondering about where to reach me, I am always available on Twitter at @RajatSX. I will see you in the next video.